I think this might actually be the best BMW you can buy. This is the 2020 BMW 340i. And why is it the best BMW, you ask? Well, I'm going to show you in this video. My name's Tom, and you are watching Paragon Cars. Let's go. As usual, let's start with the engine first. This is the updated B58 B30B engine. And what does that mean? Well, not only do we get more power at 374 horsepower, but we also get an updated fuel pump. But why is that important? Well, the previous B58 engine that was in cars like the older 340i and cars like the M140i, M240i, the high pressure fuel pump was a bit of Achilles heel for this thing, because as soon as you went above stage 2+, you could sometimes get fuel starvation issues. Plus, even at stage 1, you would notice there was a little bit of a lack in torque in some parts of the rev range. Whereas this new B58 engine, not only in stock form does it have a slightly smoother torque curve, when you remap it, you get hella good figures. In fact, a stage 1 remap on this thing will take you to about 450 horsepower, which is just mind-blowing. And when you consider the fact that power then goes through a updated ZF 8-speed gearbox with slightly better tuning from BMW and BMW's xDrive system, you are in for one hell of a ride. But even with stock power, this thing is an absolute wolf in sheep's clothing. How much, you ask? Well, let's do the 30 to 70 sprint and find out, shall we? Well, there's no beating around the bush. This thing is properly fast. We managed a ludicrous time of 3.77 seconds. That's 0.1 second off of an Audi RS3, only 0.2 seconds off of a BMW M4 and an Audi RS5. This thing is an absolute monster. And I can guarantee with a stage 1 map, this thing is going to put out some serious numbers. Now then, coming to the inside, I'm going to go through this last in the review, mainly because I just want to get behind the wheel of this thing. But before we get on the road, there is one thing I want to show you that's really, really cool about the interior of this 340i that you won't see on many others. And the keen-eyed amongst you have probably already spotted it. And that is the steering wheel. So not only has it been retrimmed in lovely Alcantara for slightly better grip and a racier feel, we have proper individual M mode buttons that you only usually see on a proper M car. And no, these are not just here for show or a gimmick, they actually work. So M1 is set up for your sports mode, so you press it once, then you get sport, press it again, you get sports plus, so you get stiffer dampers, an even more aggressive engine setup, and throttle map. Plus slightly more aggressive steering as well, like firmer steering. Then M2 is set up for your eco mode, so if you press it once, you go back into comfort mode, then press it again, you go into Eco Pro Individual, which you can set up in this menu here, and then you press it once more and you go into regular eco mode. Then if you want to go back into comfort, you just press the M1 button. This is freaking cool. And if you own one of these cars, I would seriously consider doing that because it kind of looks OEM to me. But you guys let me know what you think about this wheel in the comments. Anyway, for now, I think it's time to get driving. Well, typical British day, but we got xDrive, so it simply does not matter. We're definitely going to be exploiting that system later, by the way. But firstly, this steering wheel, honestly, well worth the upgrade. The Alcantara alone, it's amazing how just changing the material makes it feel so much like more sporty. Feels like an M car, feels like I can feel more texture coming through the steering wheel. But anyway, yeah, going around town, so going over speed bumps, just in comfort mode, it's okay. You can still feel that the dampers are quite firm, but it controls its mass well. And we actually have adaptive dampers, so if I press M1, this will get us into Sports Plus, which will put the dampers in their firmest setting. And when that happens, yeah, it is very firm. The way I would describe it is like a proper M car, actually. It really feels very similar to something like an M3, which is unsurprising. But oh my lord, just the B58 engine in this is so smooth.
B58, ZF8 speed, it really is a match made in heaven. It's such a good gearbox. But driving around town, it's stiff, but it's comfortable enough that it's not going to annoy you, is the way I'd describe it. And then throttle pedal, brake pedal, easy to modulate. The steering's nice and light in comfort mode. Electric seats. You've got a headrest that you can actually pull forwards as well. So if you've got a bit of an arch back, you can still rest your head on the headrest, which is nice. And then you can adjust the pitch of the base of the seat, and you've got this little extendable bit for your thighs as well if you've got fairly long legs. Then in terms of parking, this being a 3 Series is like literally the perfect size for London. It's a bit bigger than a smaller car, so on the motorway it doesn't feel like you're kind of riding a motorbike, if you know what I mean. It feels like you're still cocooned in something. But even when you're driving around London, it doesn't feel that big and doesn't feel that long. A 5 Series is actually quite a long car, whereas this is about the right size. Being a high-spec car, we got a 360 camera, park assist, which I'll demonstrate in a minute, lines telling us where we're going to go, and this little graphic of rectangles, which I absolutely love, because at night, if you're near a bollard, you'll actually get that rectangle coming up and showing you that you're near something. A lot of the times in other cars with parking sensors, I've found it hasn't or won't see the bollard, and then you end up sometimes hitting it. It was a very long time ago, but unfortunately it did happen to be. So yeah, even at night this system works amazingly well. Plus, obviously being a 360 camera system, it means if you're coming out of a junction, you can see when I turn the wheel, you can actually see what's coming, so you get like a proper surround view of the car, which is really, really handy if there's like big hedges next to you in the countryside. It's just all those little things that make such a huge difference. Now then, how do you use park assist? So you have to have the option ticked, you have to press the parking button down here. Now it'll start looking for parking spaces nearby. Let me just untick and tick it again just to see that it's working. Yes, there we go. And it should see a parking space, in theory. I do find the BMW system to sometimes be a little bit hit and miss, to say the least. There we go, finally found one. So you press the button on here, and then you literally just hold this parking down button and release the brake, and it does literally everything else for you. It does the throttle and the brake as well, which a lot of other systems don't do. Even puts the indicator on as well. Then it's going to turn the wheel this way and then go forwards to get us aligned with the lines in the parking space. And it does it fairly well, I'll say. One thing you'll notice is that it might not necessarily get us super straight or super even in between the lines, but it does work. And it hits the brake quite hard when you actually get into the space. And then yeah, getting out of the car as well, you can always get to the first notch on the door, which is pretty cool. But there is another feature that this car has, which pretty much all new BMW 3 Series have actually. It was like one of the main cool things. And that is reverse assist. So say you're like in a really tight space and you've driven forwards into it, and you know you can't quite remember, or it's so tight that you're finding it difficult to reverse out of it. This will remember up to 50 yards of your driving. So you just come off the brake, say like, oh look, I've seen a parking space over here, and you have to imagine this is a really tight car park, but it's like, oh look, I found this space here. And then imagine you've gotten out of the car, gone and done your shopping and all that kind of jazz, and then all you do, whack the car in reverse, and you go, oh, it's doing the steering for me. All you have to do is modulate the throttle and the brake. Obviously if you're in reverse it's just going to be the brake most of the time, but this will remember up to 50 yards of your driving again. So you can literally just let the car drive you out backwards of a parking space, which is so cool. Now it's a little bit of a gimmick sometimes, but I have had the odd occasion where, like, if you're going to Westfields or something and you know it's like really tight and you can only just about get in forwards, or if you're parking in central London, it just helps you get out a little bit. You know, you might only need like 3 yards of it doing stuff, but it does just work, and it gets you exactly where you started. And there you go, pretty cool system. A very specific system to use, but it is pretty cool nonetheless. Then coming out of junctions, B58, X-Drive, ZF8 speed, give it the gas, and you're off straight away. There is literally zero hesitation from this engine, because that full 500 Newton meters of torque comes in at just 1500 RPM. And I mean, to me it feels like it comes in at 1000 RPM. It really is amazing. So it's a great engine, but how much is it going to cost you at the pumps? And more importantly, how far is it going to get you once you've filled up? So in terms of miles per gallon, on the combined cycle, you're looking at around 39 mpg. Well, that's what BMW say. We are going to test that today on the average British daily commute. Extra urban cycle, about 47. Then this is a 59 litre fuel tank, so you're looking at about 506 miles if you do 39 mpg to a full tank. But obviously you're not going to use a full tank, so to 3/4 of a tank, about 379 miles realistically on the motorway, which is a pretty decent figure for a car with nearly 400 horsepower, I'd say. Then at the pumps at £1.45 a litre, that's going to cost you £85. Then for 3/4 of a tank, it's going to cost you £64. And yeah, again, that's going to get you 379-ish miles. So all in all, it's not insanely expensive to run. It's certainly cheaper than a BMW M3. Right, enough numbers. Let's get this thing in Sports Plus, get the traction off, and have a little taste of the handling, shall we? Okay, then let's use our steering wheel mounted button. This is such a cool feature, that. Get us into full Sports Plus. So Sports is like a halfway house. Sports Plus is full stiffness on the damping, really heavy steering, and very aggressive gearbox. Then I can put the gearbox over into S, a little downshift another gear, and make the changes even faster. Then of course we want the traction control off because it's a BMW and it's got X-Drive anyway, which is there to help you out if you need it. But these cars handle so well that, in all honesty, you don't really. Then I'm going to go for a manual gearbox, I think. And you literally just plant your foot a little bit sideways, and oh my lord, this thing absolutely rips for 374 horsepower. Whatever they've done to this new engine, it's just so much more responsive than the previous B58. Like 3000 revs, plant your foot, you're off. There's zero lag in the turbo, just zero. It is astonishingly responsive, and it feels like a rear-wheel drive car. Like, to me, the steering doesn't feel corrupted. It's only when you're on the very limit that the front wheels start pulling you out of the corner. And it just means that when you're driving fast, you never really get push, you never really get understeer. It just feels so intuitive, so smooth. Oh, it's glorious. Anyway, let's reset our trip computer now and see what kind of MPG we can do on the motorway, and see what this car's like on the motorway. You know, how loud is it? We're going to use our proper decibel reader. Is it going to be as quiet as an 8 Series? I think it might not be far off, actually. And is it comfortable on the motorway? Is the suspension comfortable on the motorway? Well, let's get ourselves into Eco Pro with our buttons again. I love that so much. And get the traction back on. Now then, coming onto the motorway, in Eco mode, they kind of deaden the throttle a little bit, but it's not so bad that if you just give it like half throttle, it doesn't feel like it's taking away too much power. Plus there's just so much torque in this B58 engine that it doesn't really matter anyway. And then if you get your foot down, yeah, this thing rips. Then once you're on the motorway, the suspension feels fairly settled. You do occasionally get a little jolt into the cabin from bigger bumps, but that's just because it's quite stiff. But like the smaller undulations and the bigger undulations, don't really feel them at all. And most importantly, there's no jitteriness. That's the one thing you don't want. Any BMW M340i owner will be able to tell you that, yeah, they know what that feels like. You definitely don't want that. Yeah, get your cruise control on 70, heads up display, tells me what the speed limit is, tells me what radio station I'm on, also tells me where I'm being navigated to, if I've got a destination inputted into the sat-nav. Wind noise is low, road noise is low. Again, we'll test the actual decibel level later. And visibility is great. There's literally nothing, realistically, that you can complain about on this car. wants to stay nice and straight. Older BMWs, you'd occasionally get tram lining, which basically means the steering wants to follow the curve of the road a little bit. In this, it doesn't really do it that much. Just kind of, feels a bit like an Audi, I suppose. Wants to do 155 miles an hour all day long. And the thing is, I could do a 12-hour journey in this. Absolutely no problem. The only thing that I suppose I don't really like is that when you're in eco mode, it gets rid of your rev counter, and I'm not a massive fan of that. But I suppose they wanted to tell you your MPG in a cool, fancy way, so can't blame them too much. But yeah, it's such a good all-round package. Anyway, let's test what kind of MPG we get and what decibel level we get. Alrighty then, that's our commute over, and we've done 35 miles per gallon. It's just bonkers how efficient this engine is. That means over a longer journey, you're easily getting over 40 miles per gallon out of this thing. Plus, when you consider the fact that, it's nearly 400 horsepower, there aren't many engines that, power to performance to reliability to economy. I don't think there's many engines that are better than this one, It just does everything. It is brilliant. Then in terms of decibel level, we did 72.5 decibels, which I think is like our third quietest level. And it's just a 3 Series. it just does everything. But yeah, well, let's slide around a bit. Let's get it into Sports Plus, get the traction off, and find out, shall we? Okay, braking. Brakes work very well and actually have a pretty nice feel to them, I can't lie. Steering, nice. Drifting, quite nice. This thing feels amazing. Good lord, it's so fast. How is it so fast? Like, to anyone that's into cars, you would think this has a stage 1 remap, yet it's stock. It just feels so quick. It's unreal. And the handling, oh god, it's just, 10 years ago, this was an M3. Like, brake feel as well. Usually on the M Sport cars, the feel isn't that nice, but in this, glorious. Even sounds quite good, to be fair. This is an OPF fitted car as well, so usually OPF cars sound a bit pants. With a res delete, I reckon you're golden. Just feels so guttural, yet smooth. Oh, just get this lovely push from the rear end. Controllable, predictable, certainly more controllable than one of those. It's just so easy. It's so easy to drive. Like, how can a car be this easy to drive? To me, I'm going to say it, I'd rather have this over a BMW M3. It's just not too much. It's not over the top. The M3 is very aggressive, very racy. On a track it'd be great. But for public roads, I mean, this is just perfect. It's not too leery that you're going to annoy people around you. And more importantly, it's safe. You can have fun whilst being safe. And the torque from this engine is effing ridiculous. Like, let's go into 5th gear, right? Below 2,000 revs, 40 miles an hour, plant my foot. Zero lag. Literally zero lag. Straight up to 70 like that. I mean, BMW, you guys are magicians. I do not know how you've made an engine this responsive from below 2,000 RPM, especially a petrol engine. It's so good. I mean, I can already tell this is going to be an amazing car on a smaller B road. But before we do that, I'm before I cream the pants. Let's go and do a 0 to 60. Okay, 0 to 60 time. Now it is a wet day, but we have X-Drive to help us out. So hopefully that will counteract the slight loss in traction. Plus we have brand new Michelin PS5 tyres on this thing, which if you don't know are fantastic in the wet. We've got the draggy ready, we've got the car ready for launch control. Now if you don't know how to do that, you literally put the gearbox over into S, make sure you're in sports mode and turn the traction off. Foot hard down on the brake, hard down on the throttle, you get the message and off you go. Oh my god! That is properly fast. Wow, I was not expecting that. Okay, yeah, let's pull over and see what time we managed. Now, before I give you the result, the claimed 0 to 60 time is 4.2 seconds, and the claimed 0 to 100 km/h time is 4.4 seconds. Right, let's see what we did, shall we? We have done 4.25 seconds. Now remember, it's a wet day today, and the run is slightly uphill, and we still did 4.25 seconds. But one thing that's really cool is, if you include a 1 foot rollout, we did a time of 3.87 seconds. That is bonkers for a 374 horsepower car. I mean, in all honesty, even though this car is stock, I'm pretty sure it's running over 400 horsepower. BMW definitely underquote their power figures a little bit. And yeah, this thing is freaking rapid. Anyway, let's take this thing down a smaller B road now and see how she does there. Right, I'm going to go for Sports Plus first and see what the dampers are like in their stiffest setting down a bumpy road. Then we might go for Sport Individual, where the dampers are in comfort, but everything else is in Sports Plus. Oh, you can just feel the rear squirming around. Wow, the fun is over very quickly though. Woohoo! And the thing is, it's like you can drive this thing at 8 tenths or 10 tenths. The car does not care. Oh, it's so good. Okay then, can we hit 60 before the corner? I think the answer is going to be yes. No wheel spin, obviously, because we have X-Drive. And yeah, come rain or shine, this car performs. That was a bit of oversteer. Good lord. This thing is though, because it's so predictable, you just feel so comfortable in pushing it to its limit. And the stability control system, whilst it's always there to catch you, it's not intrusive. So it doesn't feel like it's hampering your fun. It's just there to like make the car feel like you're not losing too much grip. It's just the suspension, the steering, the responsiveness of the engine, the way the car goes through the gears. There is nothing I would change. But let's just see if going for Sports Individual gives us a slightly softer ride. So everything else in sports, but dampers in their softest setting. See if this is any better. Yeah. I mean, the stiffest setting wasn't necessarily bad, but yeah, I can still control the car well. I would say if the road's very bumpy, then you'd use this setting, but Sports Plus is absolutely fine for British roads, I'd say. Wow. Right, before the conclusion, let's have a quick look at the interior, I think. Finally then, we come to the interior of this car. So it's great to drive, it's fast, it's comfortable, it's fairly quiet, but the interior of this just looks so much better to me than the previous BMW 3 Series. Not only do the seats just have more texture to them, they are even more comfortable than the previous generation car. Then we come to the infotainment itself. Everything that you want to be physical is still physical. Climate control, heated seats, a max AC button,
One of the best buttons ever made, personally. It means you can just get cool instantly in our hot summer's day. Then all of our drive mode settings are down here, but obviously we've got that absolutely wicked steering wheel, so we don't necessarily need those buttons down there. Then you've still got a scroll wheel, but this is also a touchscreen as well. So you've just got multiple ways of doing the same thing. Plus we have capacitive favorites buttons down here, which you can set to things like your favorite radio station, Apple CarPlay, or even your sports displays. Then we have a traction control button. If you quickly want to turn the traction control all the way off, you've got a button for it, plus your camera system, plus your parking, plus your start stop. Everything you want to be controlled through a physical button is still a physical button. Oh, please bring back these days, BMW. So ergonomically, it's great, but it's even better because it just looks nice. The design of this interior is super cohesive to me. You don't have this massive widescreen covering the whole dash like you do in newer BMWs. It just looks well placed. Everything has its little zone and just works. Then we come to the rear seats. As you can see, there's plenty of knee room and my feet can go underneath the seat in front of me. Plus, for a 5'11" guy, I've still got tons of headroom back here. I think, in fact, anyone below 6'3" should be absolutely fine back here. And when you consider the fact you've got your own zone of climate control and an armrest with some pop-out cup holders, it just means that you can carry 4 adults in this car, like proper adults. And to me, that's great, because if you want to go on road trips with your mates, you're not really fighting over which seat you're going to be sitting in, because every seat in that car is comfortable. I suppose the only disadvantage being the saloon is that, well, you just don't have as much space as the estate. Having said that though, you still get well over 400 litres of space back here, which is big enough for 2 large suitcases and a duffel bag. So all things considered, it's a pretty complete package, I'd say. Interior tour over then, let's get back to the conclusion.
Is this the best BMW you can buy sub 30k? Yes. That's my answer, yes. You know, these cars are coming now on the market for under 30 grand, and I would rather have one of these than a BMW M2 competition, because as a daily driver, it's more comfortable, it's got all the modern kit that you want, and to me at least, it's just as fun. It is not missing out on any fun factor. Yes, the M2 is a bit more leery, and you can drift it a lot more if you want to, but in weather like this, it's less scary, it's more approachable, and from a daily driver, that's what I want. You know, I want a car that can do good fuel economy. You can do well over 400 miles in this thing before you have to fill it up on a long motorway journey. It's like it's got all the best bits of an M3, of like a proper M car, and you're not really missing out on that much, in all honesty. You know, if you drive them back to back on a track, obviously the proper M car is going to feel a little bit better than this does. You know, you'll get less understeer, all that kind of stuff if you're going really quickly. But again, public roads, I think this is the better car. I really do. BMW, I commend you. You have made pretty much the perfect car. In fact, no, you've made the perfect car. I cannot complain. There's nothing to complain about. And on that note, I think we'll finish up there. As always, if you enjoy this content, please give us a like, and why not subscribe, as not only can you see more content like this, you can of course see everything we have for sale, which includes this absolutely wonderful 340i. This is a massive spec car as well. This is actually in a BMW individual colour called Tanzanite Blue, I think it is. And yeah, obviously we've got this cool wheel, you've got a sunroof, which is pretty rare on these. In fact, I'm pretty sure the only options this car is missing is the adaptive cruise control system and laser LED headlights, but it's got literally everything else, and the Harman-Kardon sound system, which you always want on a car like this because it just sounds way better than the standard system. There'll be a link down in the description for this car. If there isn't, it's already sold, and I would click on the link if I were you, because this car is definitely going to sell pretty quickly, because it's a great example, especially it's a great example of a great car, I'll put it that way. But if you're not a BMW fanboy, we've got plenty of other stuff in stock. There'll be a link down in the description just to our generic website, where you can check out all the other cool stuff we have, maybe some cars that will be in some upcoming reviews. But yeah, my name is Tom, and you have been watching Paragon Cars. I will see you guys on the next one. Cheers.